If you have ever stood outside on a clear night, far from city lights, you know the feeling. The sky opens overhead like a gentle river of light. Each point is a sun unimaginably far away. Some of those suns have already lived entire lifetimes longer than human history. Some are young, still gathering their planets. And all of them, in one way or another, belong to a story that reaches backward to a beginning we cannot see with our eyes, but can trace with careful thought, patient measurement, and a deep respect for mystery. This is that story, not as a battle of opinions, but as a journey through what scientists have learned and what honest questions remain. We will move from the birth of the universe as we understand it today, across billions of years of stars and worlds, and stop at a threshold, the emergence of life on Earth. We will not rush. We will not pretend that every detail is settled. We will speak plainly enough for a curious child, carefully enough for a teacher, and warmly enough for anyone who wants a calm voice in the dark. So breathe, let the pace be slow, and let wonder be allowed, because wonder is not the enemy of science. It is often where science begins. Along the way, we will name a few tools scientists use, not to dazzle you with jargon, but to show how conclusions are anchored. Light carries spectra, fingerprints of atoms and molecules. Rocks carry isotopes, clocks that decay at steady rates. Simulations carry mathematics, ways to test whether an idea matches what we measure. None of this removes mystery. It maps mystery into questions we can actually answer. Our best supported scientific picture of cosmic origins is called the Big Bang model. The name is a little misleading. It is not an explosion in space like a firecracker in a room. It is better imagined as the entire observable universe expanding from an extremely hot, dense state. Space itself stretches. Galaxies are not mostly flying through space away from a center. Space between them grows, carrying them apart, like dots on a slowly expanding balloon. An imperfect picture, but a useful first step. When we say extremely hot, we mean far beyond anything on Earth. When we say dense, we mean matter and energy packed together in ways we cannot recreate in full. In the earliest moments we can model with physics, the universe was filled with a seething soup of particles and radiation. It was opaque, like a thick fog. Light could not travel freely. If you could somehow stand outside that description, which you cannot because outside is not part of the story, you would not see stars, you would see a cosmos in transition. As expansion continued, the universe cooled, particles combined. Eventually hydrogen nuclei, the simplest form of atomic matter, formed, along with some helium and traces of other light nuclei. These early steps are not guesses pulled from thin air. They connect to measurable patterns in the oldest light we can detect, and to the abundances of light elements observed in the universe. Science does not ask you to believe because a story sounds poetic. It asks you to notice how many different observations point in the same direction. It is also fair to name a common misunderstanding. The Big Bang model describes the observable universe becoming cooler and less dense as it expands. It does not necessarily claim to describe everything that exists with finality, nor does it replace every philosophical question people carry about meaning or purpose. In a family-friendly documentary, the goal is accuracy without overstating. This is our best-tested cosmic narrative for the physical universe we can measure. There came a moment, about 380,000 years after the beginning, in the standard timeline, when the universe cooled enough for atoms to stabilize in a way that let light stream through. The fog lifted. That ancient light, stretched and cooled by billions of years of expansion, still surrounds us. We detect it as the cosmic microwave background, a faint glow in every direction, like a baby photograph of the cosmos. Think about how remarkable that is. Photons, particles of light, traveled across vast reaches of space, carrying information from the young universe. Tiny temperature differences in that glow map out the seeds of structure. Slightly denser regions where matter could eventually clump, and slightly emptier regions between them. Those seeds were small, but time and gravity are patient. If you want a mental image, imagine sound turned into sky. A Astronomers sometimes describe the statistical patterns in the cosmic microwave background as a kind of acoustic imprint from the early universe. Pressure waves moving through hot plasma, frozen into the distribution of matter once atoms formed. You do not need the mathematics to feel the idea. The universe had a rhythm, and that rhythm left a trace. This is one of the places where science feels almost like memory, not personal memory, but a kind of cosmic remembrance written into the sky. We are not inventing drama, we are describing evidence. And the emotional weight many people feel when they learn this is real too. It is the feeling of being small in scale, yet connected to something enormous. If you only counted the matter we are familiar with, the kind that makes stars, planets, and people, the universe would not behave the way we observe. Galaxies rotate in ways that suggest extra mass. Light bends around clusters of galaxies more than visible matter alone would allow. Large-scale structures form in a particular timetable. Together, these clues point towards something we call dark matter. Dark matter is a name for a gap between what we see and what gravity seems to require. It is not dark as in evil or secretive. It is dark because it does not interact with light the way ordinary matter does. We do not yet know its true nature. That uncertainty is not a failure, it is a frontier. Good science admits frontiers without pretending they are already crossed. You might wonder why we do not simply change our theory of gravity instead of adding unseen matter. Some researchers have tried that path. So far, multiple independent lines of evidence still favor the presence of something like dark matter, in addition to what we see glowing in starlight. Science is allowed to change its mind, but only when the data push hard enough. Ordinary matter, atoms, molecules, the stuff of stars and oceans, makes up only a small fraction of the universe's total energy budget. There is also dark energy associated with the observed acceleration of cosmic expansion in the present era. These words can sound cold on the page. In narration, they deserve a gentler framing. They are humbling reminders that the universe is larger than our everyday senses and that humility can be a form of respect. As the universe expanded and cooled, matter slowly collected into the slight, overdense regions hinted at by the ancient light. Gas pooled, gravity pulled. Eventually, the first generation of stars formed, often imagined as massive, short-lived, and chemically simple, made mostly of hydrogen and helium from the early universe. When those stars shone, they were the first brilliant islands in a darkening cosmic sea. They warmed their surroundings. They began to change the chemistry of the universe in ways that would matter later. And when the most massive among them ended their lives in supernova explosions, they scattered newly forged elements into space, seeds for richer chemistry in later generations of stars. We cannot take a photograph of the very first stars in the same way we photograph the Milky Way. Much of this story is built from theory guided by observation, computer models, spectra of the oldest stars we can see, and the chemical fingerprints in their atmospheres. Science here is like listening to an old song and inferring the instruments that played it. The melody is real, even if some verses are still missing. There is also a quiet ethical note for how we speak about firsts. When we say first stars, we mean the earliest generation we can infer from the cosmic record, not a moral ranking. The universe does not need heroes. It needs accurate chapters. Stars are not merely pretty lights, they are factories. In their cores, enormous pressure and temperature allow nuclear fusion. Lighter atomic nuclei combine into heavier ones, releasing energy. Our sun fuses hydrogen into helium, releasing the sunlight that sustains Earth's biosphere. In larger stars, fusion can build elements farther along the periodic table: carbon, oxygen, neon, silicon, steps in a process that connects astronomy to chemistry and chemistry to the possibility of life. This is one of the great unifying truths of modern science: the calcium in your bones, the oxygen you breathe, the carbon in living things. These elements were forged in stars or in the violent endings of stars. You are not separate from the universe's history. You are part of its recycling. That idea can feel spiritual to some people and strictly physical to others. Either way, it is a story supported by evidence, told here with care because it matters how we say it, to mixed-age listeners. We should also say plainly, stars are dangerous in the human sense, radiation, eruptions, and fatefully long lifetimes. But in this episode, we keep the camera wide. We focus on the patient work of building complexity over time. If you have ever seen a spectrum, a rainbow of light split finely enough to reveal dark and bright lines, you have seen one of astronomy's oldest tricks. Those lines are quantum signatures, atoms and molecules revealing their identity. Spectroscopy is how we know what stars are made of, how fast they spin, how they move toward or away from us. It is unspectacular equipment doing a spectacular job, turning light into testimony. When massive stars explode as supernovae, they do not vanish quietly. They hurl enriched material outward at tremendous speeds, stirring interstellar gas, triggering new waves of star formation, and leaving behind exotic objects like neutron stars and black holes, topics for another day. What matters for our story is the dispersal of elements. Without that dispersal, later generations of stars and planets would lack the ingredients for rocky worlds and, potentially, for chemistry as rich as ours. Interstellar space is not truly empty. It holds gas, dust, magnetic fields and cosmic rays, high-energy particles that zip between the stars. Dust grains can provide surfaces where atoms meet and stick, forming molecules. Some of those molecules are surprisingly familiar from Earth chemistry. Astronomers detect water, organic compounds, and other species in space. This does not prove life is common. It shows that the ingredients are widespread. So the universe, in its own slow rhythm, prepared a pantry. Earth would still need a recipe, and recipes take time. Meteorites, fragments of asteroids that fall to Earth, sometimes carry presolar grains, tiny minerals with isotopic patterns that predate our solar system. Holding that idea in plain language, bits of rock on Earth contain dust that formed around other stars long before our sun existed. You can call it science. You can also call it a kind of time travel you can hold in a laboratory, gently, with gloves and respect. Our solar system formed from a collapsing region within a giant molecular cloud, cold gas and dust threaded with magnetic fields and stirred by nearby supernovae. As the cloud fragment spun and contracted, conservation of angular momentum shaped it into a rotating disk, a central concentration where the sun would form, surrounded by a wide platter of material where planets would grow. This nebular hypothesis is not a fragile guess. It matches many observations. Planets orbiting in similar planes, the composition of the sun compared with planets, the ages of meteorites that preserve early solar system history. Science refines the details, how fast it happened, how migration moved worlds, how water arrived, but the broad outline is strong. Imagine the young sun igniting, not as a sudden Hollywood flash, but as the deepening heat and pressure at its core crossed the threshold for sustained fusion. A star was born, and around it countless collisions and gentle accretions slowly built worlds. Among them was Earth. The early solar system was a busy workshop. Jupiter's gravity may have influenced where materials could accumulate. Ice lines in the disk may have separated rocky worlds from gas giants. Scientists still debate migration timelines, how quickly planets moved, and in what order. That uncertainty is not a weakness of the story. It is the honesty of a field still reading a crime scene from 4.5 billion years ago. The early Earth was not a peaceful blue marble. It was hot, repeatedly remelted, pummeled by leftover planetesimals in a young solar system. Heat from impacts and radioactive decay kept much of the surface in a molten or semi-molten state. A magma ocean is not violence in the human moral sense. It is geology at full volume, a planet reorganizing itself, releasing gases, separating into layers as denser iron tended toward the center and lighter silicates floated upward. Over millions of years, the surface cooled enough for a solid crust to stabilize, though still broken, shifting, and volcanically active. An atmosphere began to form from volcanic outgassing and possibly from contributions delivered by comets and asteroids, a topic still debated in details. What matters is that Earth became a place where cycles could exist, rock, air, and eventually liquid water interacting. If you were searching for a single word for this chapter, It might be transformation. Earth was becoming itself. Many planets experience a phase of heavy bombardment, impacts from leftover debris. On Earth, we do not see the oldest craters preserved the way we do on the Moon. Plate tectonics and erosion recycle the surface. Still, the Moon's battered face is often read as a clue about what the inner solar system endured. We describe this in calm terms, not to erase danger, but to avoid sensationalizing it for families. The point is not shock, the point is context, how worlds are shaped by their neighborhoods. The Moon is more than scenery. It stabilizes Earth's axial tilt in a long-term sense, shapes tides, and records solar system history in its craters. The leading scientific model for the Moon's origin is the giant impact hypothesis. A Mars-sized body, sometimes nicknamed Theia in popular accounts, collided with the proto-Earth, throwing debris into orbit that coalesced into the Moon. We should hold this model with appropriate care. Models are tested against isotope similarities between Earth and Moon rocks, angular momentum, and simulations. It is the best fit we have, not a final word etched in stone. That distinction matters for students. Science advances by refining models, not by pretending they were always perfect. For families listening, the emotional note is gentler. Our companion world may be the result of a catastrophic collision in the deep past, yet out of chaos a kind of order emerged. The night sky's most familiar face may carry that memory. Tides, too, belong in the story, not as romance only, but as physics. The Moon's gravity pulls on Earth's oceans. Friction and geography shape how water moves. In deep time, tides may have influenced coastal environments where chemistry could cycle. Science often finds that beautiful and useful are not opposites. As Earth cooled, water vapor in the atmosphere could condense. Rain fell, perhaps for a very long time, filling basins, dissolving minerals, and beginning the chemical conversations that make a planet feel alive even before life. The oceans became Earth's great mixing bowl, salts, dissolved gases, and minerals washed from the land. Earth's early atmosphere was not like today's. It lacked abundant free oxygen for much of early Earth history. Oxygen rose later, especially with the rise of photosynthetic microbes, a chapter beyond our stopping point today, but worth naming as a future bridge. For now, think of an alien sky by modern standards, yet a sky that could support complex chemistry at the surface and in the depths. Hydrothermal systems, heated by Earth's interior, pumped mineral-rich water through cracks in the seafloor. These environments can create sharp gradients, hot and cold, alkaline and acidic, mineral surfaces and charged channels. Gradients mean energy available to drive chemical reactions. Many scientists find such settings plausible as part of the story of life's origin, not proven as the place, but compelling as a laboratory Earth provided for free. Zircon crystals from Western Australia have been dated to more than 4 billion years old, tiny time capsules suggesting that continents and liquid water may have existed surprisingly early. Each dating measurement comes with caveats, but the broad impression stands. Earth became Earth-like faster than intuition might guess. That does not force life to appear instantly. It narrows the window in a useful way. Before photosynthesis transformed the planet, life, if we can call pre-life life-adjacent chemistry, might have drawn power from chemistry itself. In hydrothermal vents, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and minerals can interact in ways that resemble the beginnings of metabolism in simplified laboratory experiments. The details are technical, but the idea is simple. Life is, among other things, a way of channeling energy through orderly reactions. Some hypotheses emphasize warm little ponds on the surface, where wet-dry cycles might concentrate molecules and help them link together. Others emphasize deep-sea vents. Still others suggest a mix. The respectful way to present this to a broad audience is not to pick a winner, as if by vote, but to show why multiple pathways are investigated and what evidence would help decide. This is science at its most human, curiosity disciplined by testing, imagination anchored by measurement. It can help to name what metabolism means in a simple way, a network of chemical reactions that extracts usable energy from surroundings and uses it to build and maintain structure. Modern cells are dazzlingly complex. Early Earth chemistry would have been simpler, but simplicity can still follow patterns, especially when minerals act as catalysts and surfaces organize molecules. Life as we know it relies on a surprisingly small alphabet of atoms, carbon especially, with hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, and a handful of others playing key roles. Carbon's chemistry is versatile. It forms chains, branches, rings, and stable bonds that can store information and function. On early Earth, simple organic molecules could have formed from atmospheric chemistry energized by lightning or ultraviolet light. Classic experiments since the mid-20th century showed that plausible gas mixtures can produce amino acids and other compounds when energy is added. Other sources include delivery by meteorites and synthesis on mineral surfaces in water. None of this step-by-step chemistry is life yet. It is preparation, a gathering of letters before a sentence exists. Chirality is another concept worth mentioning gently. Many organic molecules come in left and right-handed forms like mirror images. Life on Earth uses particular-handedness in its building blocks. Why? That is an open question. Some hypotheses involve crystal surfaces, cosmic influences, or statistical biases amplified over time. The honest answer is, we do not fully know, and that is exactly the sort of mystery that keeps laboratories busy without frightening a young listener. One influential scientific idea is the RNA world hypothesis. RNA, like DNA, can carry information, but unlike DNA, it can also fold into shapes that act as catalysts, speeding chemical reactions, similar to how proteins called enzymes work in modern cells. In a hypothetical RNA world, self-copying RNA molecules might have emerged before DNA and proteins took on their modern roles. This hypothesis is attractive because it addresses a chicken and egg problem in modern cells. DNA needs proteins to replicate, but proteins are coded by DNA. RNA's dual nature offers a possible bridge. It is also incomplete. Making RNA under early Earth conditions is challenging. Researchers explore minerals, wet-dry cycles, and alternative pathways. Some scientists emphasize other molecules or hybrid scenarios. The point for this narration is not to crown a single tale, but to show how scientists build testable pathways and how each pathway honors the real difficulty of the problem. Replication, in the biological sense, is more than copying. It is copying with enough fidelity for inheritance, yet enough variation for change. That balance, stability and flexibility, is one of life's deepest themes. Even if we only glimpse it in experiments, we are glimpsing something profound about what living systems must solve. Modern life is compartmentalized. Cells are bounded by membranes, lipid bilayers that separate an inside from an outside. Membranes allow concentration gradients, controlled chemistry, and cooperation among parts. In origin of life research, protocells are experimental or conceptual systems where simple membranes enclose reactions that resemble metabolism or replication in rudimentary form. When fatty acids or similar molecules assemble into vesicles in water, you can watch, sometimes literally under a microscope, how borders create possibilities. Again, this is not proof that life began exactly this way. It is a demonstration that physical principles can produce structures reminiscent of life's architecture. For listeners, the emotional truth is gentle awe. A membrane is a kind of first home, a pocket of order in a restless world. Cooperation may belong in the story earlier than we often imagine. Today, microbes form communities, biofilms, mats, partnerships between species. If early life was communal from the start, then the origin of life might not be a single molecule in isolation, but a gradual ecology of interactions. That idea can feel surprisingly gentle, life as something relational, not only chemical. When we ask for evidence of life in the rock record, we look for structures and chemistry that are hard to explain without biology, or at least without sustained microbial communities. Stromatolites are layered mounds often formed by microbial mats, trapping sediment. Modern examples exist in places like shallow, salty waters. Ancient stromatolite-like structures appear in rocks billions of years old, though interpreting them invites caution. Non-biological processes can mimic some layered patterns. Microfossils, tiny shapes in ancient rock, are debated case by case. Isotope signatures can hint at metabolic pathways. None of these lines of evidence is a single slam dunk for the very first life. Together they sketch an early Earth where microbial life became a planetary force. We should speak about dates with humility. Ages are measured by radiometric dating and correlated across geology. The exact year life began may never be known. What we can say is that life appears remarkably early in Earth's history once conditions stabilized, suggesting that given the right setting, the transition from chemistry to biology might be less astronomically rare than once imagined, or that we are still missing key pieces of the story. Scientists sometimes discuss Luca, the last universal common ancestor, not as the first life, but as a population from which modern domains of life diverged. Luca is a reconstruction inferred from shared genes across bacteria and archaea and the deeper branches of life. It is easy to misunderstand the term as a single creature. It is better thought of as a window into what early cellular life must have already possessed. The name sounds technical. The idea behind it is deeply human. We are trying to meet our deepest relatives in time. By the time simple life was established, Earth was already a system: rock cycles, water cycles, chemistry in oceans, gases exchanged with the atmosphere. Life did not merely survive on Earth, it began to participate in reshaping it, slowly at first, then, with time, profoundly. Stopping here, at the emergence of life, is a choice of scope, not a claim that the drama ends. Evolution, oxygenation, multicellular life, ice ages, extinctions, and the whole sprawling tree of life come afterward. But this stopping point honors the question you began with, where life began, not only on Earth, but in a chain of cosmic and planetary events that made Earth possible. If you feel small when you think about that, you are not alone. Smallness is not the same as insignificance. A person can be small and still precious. A planet can be small on a cosmic scale and still the only home we know with certainty. We have not talked much about exoplanets, worlds orbiting other stars, because this episode's promise was the path to life on Earth. But the discoveries of thousands of exoplanets have changed the cultural meaning of the night sky. Earth is special to us because it is ours and because it is inhabited. Whether it is unique in the galaxy is a question future evidence will continue to refine. Keeping that humility visible is part of respecting the audience. We began under a quiet sky. We end with a quieter truth. Understanding takes time, and mystery does not vanish just because we learn. The Big Bang model, stellar nucleosynthesis, the formation of the solar system, early Earth, and the scientific study of abiogenesis, these are not random facts. They are connected chapters in one long narrative humans have painstakingly assembled from light, rock, and reason. If you are a student, carry both discipline and wonder. If you are a teacher, thank you for guiding careful thinking. If you are listening to rest, I hope the pace felt steady. If you are listening with family, I hope the story felt safe and respectful, because respect is what we owe the past, the present, and the future. The universe is still expanding, Earth is still turning, and the questions, good, hard, hopeful questions, are still inviting us forward. Sleep well, learn well, and keep looking up. If you remember nothing else from this long journey, remember this: the story is not finished. Every generation inherits unanswered questions, and the privilege of trying to answer them without losing kindness.